damage to Sino-US relations if the 24 detained crew members are not released soon. Meanwhile, the Bush administration has expressed its sorrow over the loss of a Chinese fighter pilot in a mid-air collision, but insists it will not apologize for the incident. And President George W. Bush has responded to a letter from the missing pilot's distraught wife. ABC News has more.
The president's national security team spread out across Washington today to present a chorus of tough talk.
We have no reason to apologize.
We've made it very clear we don't think an apology is in order.
We are not apologizing.
But the administration is clearly willing to offer the Chinese a statement just short of an outright apology. The president himself is sending a personal letter to the wife of the missing Chinese pilot, which is described as an expression of compassion. And today, Colin Powell moved beyond expressions of simple regret to sorrow.
We have expressed regrets and we've expressed our sorrow, and we are sorry that a life was lost.
But Powell stood firm on continuing the surveillance flight that some Chinese are demanding be stopped.
So we certainly don't intend to give up the important reconnaissance work that we do around the world in international waters. It's an important part of our national security programs and plans, and we don't intend to abandon them.
Behind the scenes, the diplomatic efforts continue to be intense, with negotiators searching for words that will help the Chinese save face domestically without leaving the Americans with egg on theirs. If a solution is not found quickly, the long-term damage will be harder and harder to repair.
Each day that goes by without resolution makes it more difficult to avoid having this incident damage the long-term relationship between the United States and China.
That was a theme across Washington today, that China has got to help resolve this issue. President Bush, returning from Camp David, had no comment about this today, but clearly the administration is getting frustrated with China.
American officials have begun their fourth meeting with the crew of the American spy plane, which made an emergency landing on Hainan Island over a week ago. The meeting follows repeated U.S. requests for unfettered access and twice-daily visits with the 21 men and 3 women detained in the Hainan capital of Haikou. At this moment, it's not known how long the meeting will last or has lasted, but the 3 previous meetings lasted 1 hour each, and the U.S. is hopeful regular access will be granted while the crew remains in detention. Sue Lannon reports from the Hainan Island's capital.
The U.S. envoys sent to Hainan Island to monitor the well-being of the 24 detained crew members continued their waiting game for the 8th day in a row. The meeting hoped for late yesterday didn't take place, but the team says they were able to get supplies through.
We did provide some additional supplies. We delivered the emails from yesterday. So indeed, we do have contact with the crew through our intermediaries.
The intermediaries are the local authorities in Hainan who are detaining the crew at a military guest house. Speaking on CNN, U.S. National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice said only 8 crew members were allowed to attend the 3rd meeting. U.S. diplomats in Hainan say they chose which crew members could take part. They say their repeated requests for regular meetings have yet to be granted, but they've refused to comment on whether or not authorities are interrogating crew members.
U.S. envoys here say they don't know why they were only allowed to see 8 crew members yesterday, saying it was a restraint imposed by the Chinese authorities. They're continuing to press for unconditional access and twice-daily visits as long as the standoff continues. Sue Lannon, TVB News, Haikou, Hainan Island.
Getting back to Colin Powell and his expression of sorrow for the loss of the Chinese fighter pilot. This is failing to soothe feelings on the mainland. And this as the Chinese military shows no sign of softening its stance toward the United States. Louise Wong reports from Beijing.
It was a cold, wet day in Beijing, but the ambassador began the day on a sunny note when asked about the progress on the drafting of a joint letter.
We are in dialogue with our Chinese counterparts, and we hope we're moving a little closer toward a solution.
He spent most of the day in the embassy, leaving only to attend a meeting with Chinese officials in the afternoon. As the standoff enters its 2nd week, there's still no time frame for the release of the American crew. One academic at Beijing University says China will only back down if there's an apology, but it appears neither side is willing to be the first to compromise.
因为谁都要维护自己的政府和民族的尊严谁都不愿意丢面子。如果他能道歉的话， 这事情会很简单的解决，很快的解决。 啊，如果不能做到这一点的话，那么时间会拖得很长。
He said the alternative would be for the US to be more flexible on other sensitive issues, including arms sales to Taiwan. But Defense Minister Chi Hao-tian was quoted in today's China Daily as saying the US side should take full responsibility for the collision, and the Chinese armed forces and people will not accept it if the US government attempts to evade its responsibility. Former US Ambassador James Sasser says it's a sign the Chinese military is strengthening its hand.
I think the military is really the problem here. I think as the military flexing their muscles and telling the political leadership we're not ready to lay this controversy aside yet.
But saying sorry isn't enough for some people posting their opinions on a Chinese website. They say Secretary of State Colin Powell saying sorry for the fate of downed pilot Wang Wei doesn't amount to an apology for the incident. Louise Wong, TVB News, Beijing.
Another Chinese academic with overseas ties is reportedly being held on the mainland on suspicion of spying. The Information Center for Human Rights and Democracy says Qin Guangguang was detained last December and is expected to be formally arrested next week on charges of leaking state secrets. Qin is
開發計劃雖然係有國家支持，但係好似阜陽呢一啲內陸地區，點樣幫產品打開市場，仍然係地方政府面對嘅難題。
這個呢是我們不太熟悉的，因為